The cameras flashed.
Yeah.
The crowd froze. It was, the ultimate reality TV fairy tale.
Hmm.
They went from teenage sweethearts to a cheating scandal playing out on national television to this redemption arc.
Right.
It all ended in a lavish wedding, 2 beautiful children. And when the cameras stopped rolling, we all just assumed the perfect life had finally begun. Or so we thought.
But behind the closed doors of their West London home, a new storm was brewing. It wasn't an affair this time. It wasn't a financial scandal. It was a diagnosis that completely rewrote the rules of their love.
And the headlines screaming across the internet today. ADHD destroyed their marriage. Welcome to StarScope Report.
I mean, it sounds like total clickbait, doesn't it?
It really does.
But when you actually dig into the sources we have today, from the Evening Standard to reports in the Daily Star, it is so much more complicated than just that headline.
And that is exactly why we're here. We aren't just looking at a celebrity breakup today. We are looking at a complete dismantling of the Chelsea lifestyle. We're talking about Millie Mackintosh, Hugo Taylor, and how neurodivergence, sobriety, and a sudden pivot to homeschooling shattered one of Britain's most polished power couples.
It's a heavy one. And you're right, because this isn't just about two people splitting up. It's about this fundamental clash between, old money expectations and modern mental health realities.
So let's just set the scene. The breaking news from early 2026. Millie Mackintosh and Hugo Taylor have officially separated after 7 years of marriage. Sources are calling it a difficult start to the year.
A huge understatement, I think.
Yeah. Now, for anyone who didn't spend their 2011 glued to E4 watching Made in Chelsea, we probably need a quick primer on the whole fairy tale aspect here.
It is quite the timeline. They met as teenagers, got famous on Made in Chelsea, then came all the drama. Hugo cheated. There was that infamous drink-throwing scene. It was messy.
Well, very messy.
Millie went off, married the rapper Professor Green, they divorced, and then she reunited with Hugo in 2016.
And by 2018, they were married. The whole narrative was soulmates finding their way back.
It was the perfect story.
The classic old money script, right? The prodigal son returns, everyone settles down in West London. But here is where we get into the real substance of this deep dive, because the sources suggest this isn't just about growing apart.
Not at all.
It's about specific internal shifts that made their old life just impossible. And the first big domino to fall, the ADHD diagnosis.
Right. Millie was diagnosed with ADHD in 2024. And according to the analysis we've seen, this wasn't just a label she slapped on herself. It fundamentally changed her self-perception. And to understand why that's so huge, you have to understand masking in adult women.
Masking. That is a term we see thrown around a lot on TikTok and in pop psychology now. So break that down for us in this context. What does masking actually look like for someone like Millie Mackintosh?
So masking is basically a survival mechanism. For neurodivergent women, especially in these high-pressure social circles like the British upper class, it's the act of suppressing your natural impulses.
Like fidgeting, interrupting.
Exactly, or emotional dysregulation, all to fit into a neurotypical mold. For Millie, that mold was the perfect Chelsea wife, the hostess, the calm mother, the supportive partner. And it requires a huge amount of cognitive energy to maintain that facade.
It just sounds exhausting.
Yeah.
Like playing a character in your own living room, 24/7.
It leads to severe burnout. And once she had that diagnosis in 2024, the sources suggest she just stopped trying to force herself into that box. She stopped masking.
And when you stop masking, I imagine the whole dynamic of your relationships has to change.
It inevitably does, because you're literally showing up as a different person. You stop nodding politely when you're bored. You stop suppressing the urge to change everything around you.
And that diagnosis brings us to the second domino, which plays directly into that masking idea. Alcohol.
This is crucial. In 2025, Millie revealed something really vulnerable. She said Hugo had previously given her an ultimatum. He basically said, if you don't stop drinking, it's going to end our marriage.
Yeah, I saw the reports on that. She apparently humiliated him at a wedding. It was a real wake-up call. She's been sober for over 2.5 years now.
Right.
But here's the twist, and I find this so fascinating. Sobriety didn't save the marriage. It actually seems to have sped up the end of it. Why would that happen?
It's a really common phenomenon. We often think of alcohol as the problem, but for someone with undiagnosed ADHD, alcohol is often the solution.
Coping mechanism.
A maladaptive one, yeah. Alcohol provides a dopamine hit for a dopamine-starved brain. And socially, it lowers inhibitions, making the masking feel less heavy. It's a buffer. It numbs the dissatisfaction.
So you take the alcohol away.
And you remove the buffer. You're just left with the raw reality of the relationship. Without that numbing agent, Millie had to face her life with clear eyes. And that's when she started posting these cryptic messages about 2026 being a year of shredding, not shrinking.
Shredding, that is such a visceral word. It isn't evolving or changing. It's almost violent.
It implies destruction, right? To reveal something new. She talked about leaving behind relationships that cost me. Sobriety just clarified that they were on completely different paths.
And speaking of different paths, there's another layer here that I don't think anyone saw coming. We have to talk about the reports about her sexuality.
We do. Reports from the Daily Star and insiders claim Millie has been exploring her sexuality in a way she never felt safe enough to before. She admitted to having crushes on girls and intimacy issues with women in the past, mainly due to bullying.
But now, with sobriety and the ADHD diagnosis, she's realized she was suppressing an attraction with alcohol.
Exactly. And sources say this candidness regarding her sexuality caused a huge rift. She's exploring who she is outside of being a wife and a mother. She's wondering if she, quote, missed out on a relationship with a woman.
Wow.
It's a profound identity awakening that just couldn't coexist with the traditional marriage she was in. When you combine unmasking your personality, sobering up to your reality, and unlocking a suppressed part of your sexuality, the old container just breaks.
So the marriage is over. The Chelsea power couple is done. But what Millie is planning to do with their children might be an even bigger shock to the system.
Man.
We're talking about a total rejection of the elite school system. Stay tuned, because this is where the story gets really wild.
It really does.
Coming up, why a polo stick, a light fixture, and a boarding school dorm room are the reasons Millie Mackintosh is pulling her kids out of this system entirely.
You do not want to miss this detail.
Welcome back to StarScope Report. So we're digging into the collapse of the Mackintosh-Taylor marriage, but now we're pivoting to the fallout. Usually, when a posh London couple splits, the fight is over who picks the kids up from their, 20,000 pounds a year private school.
Right.
Not here.
No. We're looking at a fascinating document here titled The Strategic Reconfiguration of Elite Domesticity. It sounds super academic, but it explains exactly what is happening. Millie is reportedly considering homeschooling their daughters, Sienna and Aurelia.
Homeschooling. For a Made in Chelsea star, that feels like a massive pivot. We usually associate that crowd with prestigious boarding schools, not, kitchen table lessons.
It is, but you have to understand the why. This isn't about academics. It's rooted in deep personal trauma. Millie has described her own schooling as emotional trauma.
And the details she gives are honestly harrowing. It paints a picture of that elite boarding school life that is just a world away from the Harry Potter fantasy.
A nightmare, really.
I read the source on this, and honestly, my jaw dropped. She was bullied for being gangly and thin. But there was this one specific incident she revealed involving a polo stick.
The polo stick. This is the detail that really highlights the cruelty of that kind of environment.
Tell us what happened there. Just paint the picture for us.
So you have to imagine a teenage Millie in her boarding school dorm room. It's supposed to be her sanctuary. But these other girls tied a polo stick, which is a really heavy piece of equipment, to a light fixture above her door as a booby trap.
Oh my.
The intention was that when Millie opened the door, it would swing down and, in their words, break her nose.
That is horrific. That's not just bullying. That is physical assault. That is Mean Girls on, a criminal level.
It's physically dangerous. And the psychological toll was immense. She used to hide in the infirmary just to avoid sleeping in the dorms. She lived in constant fear.
So now, fast forward to 2026. She's applying for schools for her daughter, Sienna, and she calls the process a roller coaster that triggered all this old trauma.
Of course. She's terrified of her daughters facing those same cliques.
It makes total sense. If you have the means to protect your kids from the thing that hurt you most, you do it. But there's a neurodivergent angle here too, right? Because trauma is one thing, but brain chemistry is another.
There is, and this connects right back to the ADHD diagnosis we talked about. Millie suspects her daughter, Sienna, also has ADHD. She describes her having massive meltdowns.
Which, as any parent knows, can be incredibly stressful.
Especially if you have ADHD yourself. It's a sensory nightmare. So she looks at the school environment and she sees an enemy.
What is it about the traditional school she thinks is so bad for them?
Well, think about what a traditional, elite British school asks of a child. It asks for rigid conformity.
Sit still for hours. Be quiet. Wear the uniform perfectly.
Navigate complex social hierarchies. For a neurodivergent brain, that requires constant, exhausting masking. Millie believes that structure just doesn't work. She wants a bespoke structure.
Bespoke structure. That is such a 2026 phrase.
It is, but what it means is focusing on nervous system regulation. This is a key concept in modern therapy. It's about creating an environment where a child can stay in a rest and digest state, not a constant fight or flight state.
Which she believes school puts them in.
Constantly. So she wants to create a bubble where they don't have to fight to survive. And you see this in her whole lifestyle now. She was just at an Ayurveda retreat in India solo, by the way, to heal her nervous system.
Right. She's moving from Chelsea party girl to wellness warrior. She's connected to people like Ella Mills from Deliciously Ella and Joe Wicks.
It's a complete shift in values. She is prioritizing internal safety over external validation. She's basically saying, I don't care if my kid goes to the right school. I care if my kid feels safe.
It really feels like she is trading social status for safety.
That is the perfect way to put it. She is rejecting the whole facade of that elite life. The school run, the parents' evenings, the social posturing, to create this controlled, safe environment for her and her girls.
But Millie isn't the only famous offspring waging war on her family's narrative. Up next, we look at the son of a British icon who has gone nuclear on his parents.
If you think the Mackintosh split is dramatic, just wait until you hear what is happening with the Beckhams.
And if you're loving these deep dives into the hidden lives of the stars, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We've got even crazier stories coming up that you won't want to miss.
Seriously, the research pile for next week is already looking huge.
Okay, let's pivot. We've talked about Millie rejecting the educational system, but there is a bigger trend here. The rejection of the family brand.
Yes. Millie's rejection of the Chelsea facade is not an isolated incident. It is part of this massive wave of celebrity children rejecting the brands their parents built. And the poster child for this, right now, Brooklyn Beckham.
Brooklyn Beckham, son of Posh and Becks, the ultimate Nippo baby.
The heir to the throne, essentially.
So the headline is that Brooklyn, who's 26 now, has gone nuclear on David and Victoria. What is happening there?
He posted on Instagram, which seems to be the battleground of choice for this generation, accusing them of controlled narratives and living inauthentic lives.
Ouch. That has to hurt. Inauthentic is basically the worst insult you can throw at a celebrity these days.
It gets worse. He claims they place lies in the media to preserve their image. And then he stated explicitly, I do not want to reconcile with my family.
That is heartbreaking, honestly. But also, it sounds familiar.
It is the exact same theme as Millie. Both are rejecting performative lifestyles. Wow. Brooklyn is aligning with his wife, Nicola Peltz, against the Beckham brand.
He's saying, I don't want to be a prop in your perfect family photo anymore.
Exactly. And it's happening everywhere. It feels like the kids are waking up and opting out. Look at Miley Cyrus.
Snubbed her dad, Billy Ray, in her Grammy speech. Just completely erased him from her success story in that moment.
Wild. And what about Brad Pitt's kids?
Shiloh legally dropped Pitt from her name. Zahara just uses Jolie. I mean, that is a legal disowning of the father's legacy.
And Elon Musk's daughter, Vivian,
changed her name and gender and stated she wishes to be related to her father in no way. That is as absolute as it gets.
Then there's Anthony Hopkins, who's been estranged from his daughter Abigail for decades.
So in that case, he did admit his drinking made his departure essential for his own survival. But the theme is the same, the fracture of the perfect family image.
So what does this all mean? Why is this all happening now? Is it just teenage rebellion stretched into the 20s?
I don't think it's that simple. I think we're watching the death of the curated celebrity family. For decades, the goal was to look perfect. The perfect marriage, the perfect kids, the perfect school run. But this new generation, Millie included, values truth over the dynasty.
Or at least their version of the truth.
Their version of the truth, exactly. They have access to therapy language, they understand concepts like narcissism and enmeshment, and they are just refusing to play the game.
Whether it's ADHD destroying a marriage because one partner can no longer mask, or a son exposing his parents' PR strategies, the facade is crumbling. People are tired of pretending. They're choosing the chaos of reality over the order of a lie.
So to recap, we have Millie Mackintosh trading red carpets for homeschooling and nervous system regulation. We have Brooklyn Beckham tearing down the Posh and Becks empire from the inside.
The takeaway for me is that the perfect image is just exhausting. And for people like Millie who are navigating ADHD, sobriety, and sexuality all at once, it's no longer sustainable. You can't heal a nervous system while trying to maintain a fake life.
It's fascinating. It really raises the question, in an age of oversharing and mental health awareness, can the old school celebrity dynasty even survive? Or are we watching the end of the era where famous families pretend to be perfect?
I think the answer is pretty clear. The era of perfection is dead. The era of shredding is here.
Wow. Well, that is a lot to think about. You've been listening to StarScope Report.
Where we uncover the stories shaping Hollywood, music, and pop culture.
Thanks for tuning in. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that keep the stars shining.